Hey everyone, welcome to Celebrate Recovery. This is our third attempt at the virtual edition of Celebrate Recovery, and you would think that this would get easier the more times that we do it, but it's still extremely awkward sitting here staring and talking to myself. I'm trying to avoid the crazy part, and I feel like I'm kind of going in reverse, and I feel a little crazy sitting here in an empty room talking to myself. So I miss you guys. I miss our fellowship. I miss our Tuesday nights. I miss our meals. For those of you that are not familiar with Celebrate Recovery, this is a 12-step program, and what we do on a Tuesday night is we get together, we have a meal beforehand, we fellowship, we have kids running around, people are hugging. It's a very joyful interaction for the most part, and it's difficult. It's difficult to do it this way, and I understand that, and I just look forward to the day that we can finally get back together and do things the way we used to do. So until then, we will continue to use this platform. We're extremely blessed to have this platform. And one day we will be able to meet again in the church on Tuesday nights. If you are new to Celebrate Recovery, we welcome you. My name is Jeremy. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I've struggled with alcohol and pornography addiction, as well as anger and control issues. But through the grace of God and through Jesus Christ, today I am free of my addictions, and I'm still working on my other issues. So welcome. We're glad you're joining us tonight. And if you've missed the first two lessons, they're available on our Facebook page. Tonight we're going over a lesson in hope. And I think we could all use a little bit of hope right about now. But especially those of us that are still hanging on to things, the things that we're still allowing to be front and center in our lives. So in hope, in this lesson, we find ourselves in step 2. And we're not actually doing step 2. We're not doing the steps, so to say. In these lessons, they're introducing us to the process of this program. And I appreciate you guys throwing your comments on there and your interaction. It's like I said, it's really weird sitting here staring at myself, talking to myself. I feel like I'm going a little crazy. So in step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And that's the key is just came to believe. We just came to believe that we are not God, that there may be a greater being out there than us. I mean, could you imagine that we're not God? I mean, when I was in the throes of my addictions, I thought I had to run the whole show. So for this step, for me, this was huge. That there's a concept out there that I could grab onto, that I don't need to play God. I was doing it subconsciously, but regardless, it was exciting for me to just think that there may be something out there that's greater than I am. My ego didn't want to let go of that, but it was something that I knew I needed to listen to. And the verse that goes with that is, "For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose." And that's Philippians 2:13. So in principle 2, we earnestly believe that God exists. And this is part of step 2. Earnestly believe that God exists and that we matter to him. And that he has the power to help us recover or overcome whatever it is that we're hanging on to. And it was pointed out to me early on that earnestly is the key to that. Earnestly is almost with desperation. I desperately had to believe that. Because I was hopeless. I felt like I had no hope. I had nothing to look forward to. And that's a terrible thing to say, because I had everything in the world that you work for. I had a beautiful wife. I had an amazing 2-year-old little boy. I had a job that paid well. We had 2 vehicles, a picket fence, a home. We had everything that you were supposed to have. but I was hopeless. I was miserable. I was allowing my past to continue to control my life. In Hebrews 11:6 tells us, anyone who comes to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. Psalms 62:5 tells us, yes, my soul, find rest in God. My hope comes from him. So in the first principle, if we go back, first step, what we covered was that we admitted that we were powerless. We admitted that whatever brought us to this point, whatever brought us to our breaking point, that we were powerless over it. We were powerless over our lives. And it is through that admission of our powerlessness that we're able to believe and receive God's power into our lives. But we do need to be careful not to just get to this point and cover up the pit that we're trying to allow God to bring us out of, where we find our hurts, our habits, and our hang-ups. Because it's easy to just cover that and pretend that those things go away with layers upon layers. I was trying to do that when I was still actively drinking, when I was doing other things that were unhealthy for me. I was trying to use things to cover that pit. I wanted that to go away. I didn't want to see those things anymore. I didn't want to feel those things until all those layers just got so heavy that I just fell back in that pit and I started right over where I left off. But instead, we need to keep those hurts or those resentments exposed. And don't get me wrong. I don't mean we need to continue to live in those. I don't mean we need to continue to relive those and allow them to control us. But when we expose them and we bring them to light, that's when we can truly start to heal through them. Hopefully that makes sense. In no way do I mean we continue to relive those. That's what I was doing. I was reliving every single thing, and it was killing me. So in the second principle, or step, we believe that God exists, that we are important to him, and that we're able to find the one and true higher power, Jesus Christ. And that's what separates this program from other programs that have 12 steps. Is it's not open to interpretation. We truly believe that Jesus Christ is the one and only true living God, and he is our higher power. Now, if you aren't there yet, that's okay. We just hope that you get to the point where you came to believe that there is a power greater than you. We'll pray for you to get to the rest of it. That his love and his joy and his presence will transform your life. One of my favorite parables in the whole Bible is in Luke 15, and it's the story of the prodigal son. And if you're not familiar with it, I would recommend go look up Luke 15 and read through it. But quickly, it's a story of a father's love for his son, a son that's been gone, and then comes back. But for me, it was truly a picture of God's love for me when I was lost, when I was on the run, when I was doing things that were breaking God's heart. He was still waiting right there. He was still just waiting for me to turn around, just waiting to embrace me with open arms. And I had no idea. I didn't know it. I can promise you that God's searching love can find you where you're at. No matter how many times you may have fallen, no matter how far gone you think you are, no matter how broken you think you are, no matter how many times you think you've messed up, I can promise that God's love is waiting for you. I don't know how many times I've heard somebody say, "Oh, God could never love me." That was me. That's what I thought. I thought that too. But he's completely turned my life around, and I am so grateful and undeserving for what God has done in my life. And I know he wants to do that for you too. I've seen it. And that's truly where we find hope in this. We find hope in not only through Jesus Christ, like I just shared, but through the people in this program, in this ministry, through the people that have been broken, that share similar stories to ours, that feel like that they had no hope either. And that's where we can identify with similar things, and when we hear where someone else has been, we start to think to ourselves, okay, well, if that's who they say they were, that's not who they are now. Maybe this can work for me. So that's why our lesson tonight is hope. Again, if you're new, this is Celebrate Recovery. This is a 12-step program, and it's very similar to other 12-step programs, except for the fact that it encompasses everything. It encompasses addictions. It encompasses resentment, like you've never, anger, the pain that's caused by those addictions to our loved ones, healing. There are so many things that food addiction, it can be unforgiveness. You just continue to carry around this hatred towards somebody that's hurt you, but ultimately it's eating you inside. There are so many things that going through this process, the biblically based process, can free you from those things, and allowing people to come along beside you and encourage you and help you and guide you. It's just simply amazing. This ministry has partnered with over 25,000 churches across the world, and over 2 million people have gone through these steps and found healing. Just in our ministry alone, we've seen divorces get torn apart. We've seen divorces proceed, and then the couples end up coming into Celebrate Recovery together, joining the church, and getting remarried, or working on towards getting remarried. There are so many stories of hope that can be shared that have come from this ministry and in our church. So I'm grateful that you're watching, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us on Facebook. Message us privately if you want to keep it anonymous, because that is part of this. Just because you're watching doesn't mean that you're part of this ministry if you don't want to be. But if you'd like more information and you want to keep it, private, please message us. So we're going to get into hope, and with all of our lessons, we do an acrostic. And the acrostic tonight, obviously, is hope. And the first letter in hope stands for higher power. And our higher power is, like I said, the one and only higher power, and that's Jesus Christ. And in the past, maybe you heard the story about Christmas. Maybe you went to church on Easter, which is coming up. Maybe there were times in your life where you had exposure to who Jesus is, but maybe you never really grabbed onto that, or maybe you never sought how that could apply to your life, or what does that mean in your life. So what you'll find by taking this next step is a hands-on, day-to-day, one-on-one, intimate relationship with Jesus Christ, and you'll start to see that Jesus desires that with us, that God desires that with us. He can do for us what we've never been able to do for ourselves. That doesn't let us off the hook. That doesn't mean that we're all done. We can just kick back, put our feet up, and watch Netflix. We still have work to do, and you'll see those things revealed to you as you build your relationship with Christ. Romans 11:36 says that everything comes from God alone, and everything lives by His power. Many people believe today that we need to pull up our bootstraps, and we need to do it all on our own. We need to figure things out. But when we put our hope and our faith in Christ, it's amazing how things are revealed to us, and how that burden just tends to feel lighter. I'm gonna ask a question real quick and think about this. And maybe you'll disagree with me, but this is it made sense to me. So probably it's a little crazy, but have you ever seen an idea? Have you ever seen an idea? Or have you ever seen love? Have you ever seen love? I'm going to argue no. You've seen ideas put into practice, and you've seen acts of love played out. But I would argue that you've never seen love. You've never seen the emotion of love. And I would argue that faith is similar to that. Faith is something that you can't see. You can't see faith. You can see the acts of faith. You can see faith in practice. But I truly believe that those real things, the things that last, are things that are invisible to us. So hopefully that helps you kind of open your mind a little bit to stepping out in faith, if you haven't already. Saying that we came to believe in anything describes a process, and belief in this step is a result of consideration. It's some doubt, maybe some reasoning, and making a conclusion. And I would encourage you that if you're still searching, if you're still trying to figure out what your faith is, that you would do those things. We're not asking to simply blindly believe, blindly just step out in faith with no merit to it. For me, that's what I did. I started listening to more Christian music. I started just trying to absorb anything I could that I could identify with. I started, picking verses out of the Bible and just cherry picking things. I didn't know how to apply them, but things that meant something to me, things that made me crave more and dig deeper. I truly believe that God expects us to doubt him. He expects us to question him. And I believe that's why the Bible is written for us, is for us to continue to dig, to continue to crave, to continue to want more, and to grow our faith. 2 Corinthians 12:9 might be one of my favorite verses. And it says, my grace is sufficient for you. And just to kind of summarize it, it's, when you are weak, I am strong. And God promises that to us. And so then it goes on to say, I will boast all the more gladly in my weakness. Today, I don't want to try to be strong. When I try to be strong, things don't go right. My ego gets involved, my pride gets involved. So today I do. That might be my life verse, is I will boast all the more gladly in my weakness, because I know Christ has my back. So the next letter we come to is O, which stands for openness to change. And one of the questions we can ask is, what is the process that leads to a solid belief, which leads us to change in our life? So first, we're going to look at, we're going to go back a little bit to step 2, and we're going to look at we came to believe. We came. So when we came, we took the first step. We attended our first meeting, maybe, for those of us that have been to a meeting. We logged on to watch this, or we reached out to someone. We basically, we stepped out in faith by doing that. That person wasn't going to judge us, that we weren't going to be ridiculed or shamed. And then we came to. We stopped denying our hurts and our habits and our hang-ups. We came to this place. We came to this understanding that we may be able to find hope in this place. And to me, if we're afraid of change, we're limiting our chances to find hope. Because if we continue to do the things that we've always done, we're always going to get the same results, right? So hope to me is an openness to change. But sometimes we're afraid of change. We talked about this a little bit in one of the other lessons. We're afraid of, even though we may have dealt with so much pain in our past, or struggles, or hurt, or addictions, it was familiar. It was comfortable. No one likes change. Look what's going on in the world right now. Everybody's depressed and feeling down, and this is change. This is different. This is, we have our routines. We have our things that we do on a daily basis. So openness to change is scary. But resisting change because of the fear of the unknown, or maybe in despair, because we don't think we deserve any better, is just continuing to get the same results that we've always gotten. So the good news in hope is that it opens doors. It opens doors when our despair closes them. Hope discovers what can be done instead of complaining about what can't be done, or the things that the same results we continue to get, and we continue to throw our pity parties about. Hope shows us new things, new possibilities. And throughout life, we'll continue to encounter hurts. We'll continue to face trials that we are going to feel powerless over, but we'll continue to find the hope in the things that we've already gone through, the times we've had to rely on being powerless and boasting in our weakness. Ephesians 4:23 gives us a challenge kind of to that. It says, now attitudes and thoughts must all be constantly changing for the better. You must be a new and different person. So how do you do that? We do that by the next letter, which tells us about the power to change. In the past, we may have wanted to change, but we were unable to. We could not free ourselves from the hurts, the habits, whatever it was, the hang-up, the addictions that we were stuck to. But in taking that the second step, like we've been talking about, we see that God has that power to help us. I've talked about, I tried to do different things. I tried to curb, be it my drinking. I tried to go to a different gas station so I wouldn't just randomly buy a 12-pack for the ride home, or the things that are insane. I convinced myself towards the end that I didn't have the power to change. I couldn't do it. It was baffling. But once I came to believe that there might be a power out there, I had no idea what that power was at the time. That's when I started to find hope, and that's when I found Jesus Christ. Philippians 4:13 tells us, for I can do everything God asks me to with the help of Jesus Christ, who gives me strength and power. And the power to change comes only from God's grace. Hope draws this power from a deep trust in God. Like similar to the psalmist, it says, lead me and teach me, for you are the God who gives me salvation. I have no hope except in you. Psalm 25:5. And that's still true today for me. 7 years later, I still find only hope in Christ. It has made the rest of my life better. I've found hope in so many other things in my life, but ultimately, if I lose that hope, I have nothing. But God says He'll never leave us or forsake us, right? So, once we tap into that power, we start to take right actions, and we start to follow those things naturally, kind of as byproducts of working these steps and continuing to grow in our faith with our higher power, Jesus Christ, but also with men and women coming up beside us, along beside us, encouraging us, working with us to show us and challenge us when we may do something that isn't quite in line with what we're trying to change in our lives, or what God's trying to change in our lives. We have people beside us. That's why it's so important to continue to come to meetings, to get to know people, to get to hear their stories and see which people you might click with. And it may change from week to week. So, I would encourage you to jump into the meeting afterwards through the Zoom platform. If you need the password and the login info, please private message us. We're going to be having that directly after this at around 6:45. Women will have one and the men will have one. It's anonymous. No one's going to talk about who they see there, who they talk to, and we expect that to be the same for who you see and who speaks. And then, so that brings us to the last letter, which is E, and that stands for expect to change. When we come to accept Jesus Christ as our higher power, as a power greater than ourselves, and we start to hear other people's stories, we start to expect, we accept and expect that can happen for us too. So just please remember that this is only the second step. It may seem overwhelming, but please do not quit before the miracle happens. With God's help, these changes that you may have been longing for are just steps away. One of the guys, he'd be okay with me sharing this. He came and he said, okay, 12 steps, 12 weeks, and I'll have this kicked in no time. It's been over a year, and we're still working on it. He has been free from his addiction that brought him in here, but he's still working the steps. This is a lifetime thing. Step 12 is then we bring this message to other people. We continue to share the hope that we found in Jesus Christ, and share the message with others. That's step 12. So just because we get through these 12 steps doesn't mean our life ends there and we can go back to doing what we're doing. And trust me, it may seem like you don't want to right now, but you're going to just want to give this away. It's just so freeing that you're going to want this hope for everyone that you meet, everyone in your life. Philippians 1:6 expresses this: I am sure that God, who began the good work within you, will keep right on helping you grow in His grace until His task within you is finally finished, and on that day when Jesus Christ returns. So it's you can't do anything unless you get started, right? You can't do anything unless you get started. So how much faith do you need to get started? Matthew 17:20 tells us, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible with just a little bit of faith. And it's reassuring to know that we don't need large amounts of faith. We don't need to wait for our recovery process or our healing to begin until we have this much faith. Or I used to think I had to have this TV preacher faith to be able to talk to anybody about who Christ is, or to be able to share this message. I felt like it was only reserved for certain people. But, Jesus tells us we just have to have a little bit of faith, and He'll do the rest. He'll do the rest. Hebrews 11:1 tells us what faith is. Faith is confidence in what we have hoped for and assurance about what we do not see. Faith even the size of a mustard seed, so small that you cannot see it is our avenue to salvation. And that's the only way we can find salvation, is through Jesus Christ, through faith in who he is. And I can't express to you enough that if you just put what little faith you have in Jesus, the changes that you'll start to see in your life. And so I encourage you tonight, if you haven't taken this step of hope, if you haven't accepted Jesus Christ into your life, I would just challenge you tonight to do that. Whether it be, messaging us, reach out tonight and just ask us what that means. We would be happy to share that with you. We could do a one-on-one Zoom meeting if you'd like, or you can get involved in the larger Zoom meeting and maybe ask people questions, in there afterwards, and get numbers, and you could talk to somebody that you might hear something that they shared. But simply put, today, my life without Christ today would be a hopeless end. But today, with him, my life is an endless hope. So that's where we're going to end tonight. We've got about 15 minutes before the Zoom meetings start. Again, I would encourage you to check in with one of those. Send us a message if you'd like to get more information on how to take part in those. But I'm very encouraged if you took the time to watch this, because it's intimidating, it's scary, even on this platform, let alone walking through the doors for the first time. So I want to give you some hope, and I want to give you some encouragement that you can find this same freedom that others in this program have found. Again, if you are not a member of a church, I would encourage you to check out our Sunday service this Sunday. At Faith Church in Waterville is our Facebook page. We'll be streaming a live Facebook service, and just get connected, get plugged in, get to know people, and you'll be amazed what Christ will do from there. So I'm going to close this in prayer, and then I'm going to go ahead and log off. Please feel free to reach out and message us if you have any questions. Heavenly Father, I just pray that if there's anyone out there tonight that is struggling, that is hurting, a lot of us with even a lot of faith are feeling down, feeling shut in, feeling isolated from our loved ones, from our routines. Lord, I just pray that you would strengthen them, you would lift them up. And you would remind those that have the faith of a mustard seed, Lord, that you would just make your presence felt, make your presence known to them, and encourage them to continue to seek that intimate relationship with you, that every life matters to you, Lord. And I just pray that you would help them draw nearer to you every day from here on out. And I just pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Have a blessed night, everybody.